Hey everyone, welcome to Essential. I'm not sure what this is becoming. I think it might be a podcast now. It's a conversation that I'm having with everyone, and today in particular, I'm having it with Richard St. Ofle, um, old friend of mine. He's a professor at Sac City College. He teaches film studies there. He's a father and a screenwriter. So yeah, we were drawing it up about just everything that we're all going through. We are what 9 months into this pandemic now. We're still in California. We're on stay-at-home orders again. And there's all kinds of degrees. There's different categories of workers that can leave their house for whatever reason. Our sheriff here in Sacramento County has outright stated that he's not going to really enforce any kind of curfews or anything like that. So I'm not really sure how that works. If you're the law enforcement person, you could just pick and choose what laws you want to obey, I guess. But that's our sheriff. And yeah, so first part of this whole thing is I am here to remind all of us to keep our masks on when you're in public. This is a safety measure that we do for each other to keep each other from, this disease that is just kind of floating around everywhere. I recently had two family members come down with it. They're both older, in their 70s somewhere. One of them is in dialysis and, has been for a while. And they're both still playing it out. They're writing, they're going through all the symptoms, and I guess it was bad, and then they were better, and then it got bad again, and it's just a day by day prospect at this point. So everything we can do, washing your hands every time you go in and out of the house. If you touch doors and all that kind of stuff, like, I mean, those things are gross anyway. We've always known that we're supposed to wash our hands. Like even just the regular flu hangs out on that stuff. But with this pandemic that is killing people and also crushing this economy, it's more imperative now that we stay on top of those things for each other. Yeah, I want to cover a couple other things too. I was reading around today, and I guess in California we still don't have any kind of renters protections, and there's another 6 weeks before the current protections, which are fairly light, run out. So what that means is that a couple million people could be evicted if they can't make rent. A lot of people are not working. A lot of people don't have jobs. A lot of jobs just don't exist anymore. And so that means a couple million people could be thrown out in the street in winter, in the middle of a pandemic, if our legislature doesn't get in there and take some kind of action. And we call ourselves a democracy here in the US, but we don't really hold our government to a standard that we would hold for ourselves. I can't think of anyone I would throw out in the middle of this kind of crisis mode. But we allow our government to just kind of like float on these sort of things, and we really have to get around that. We have to get our heads around that as a society. Stop talking about the government as if it's something external to us, and get in there and put the pressure on these people to, hold up their end of the deal. We voted them into office. They're getting all those perks. They got health care, that's for sure. They're, I can't think of any legislators that are on the verge of getting thrown out and evicted. But they're making these decisions for people that are, putting people in a lot more stress than we already are. Anyway, mask up, that's what we could do. Wash our hands, that's what we could do. And write your legislators, call those guys, call them up, put the pressure on them. It's another thing we could do. Anyway, I'm going to bring Richard in. I always enjoy talking with this guy. We've known each other quite a long time. And yeah, we're just going to get him in the studio here and do this thing live. There we go.
Hey, Jesse.
Hey, man. Thank you so much for jumping in here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me
Talking
too.
to you is always good, and talking to you live on the internet is even better.
Yeah, it's well, it's not better than in person, but we do what we can.
Right. Right.
So you're currently teaching at Sac City College.
I am, yeah.
That's my alma mater, and love that place very much. And you're
Yeah, there's cool energy. There's a lot going on. I went there back in the day too,
yeah,
and transferred from there. And it's got a good thing going. There's a lot of good people teaching there.
yeah,
Love my students. There's cool energy.
excellent. So you're teaching. You're a professor of film studies over there.
Yeah.
And I'm still amazed that that's a job, and I think it's awesome. But it does, and I think a lot of people have that idea that, oh, what do? You just watch movies all day. But I was talking with Aida last week, an artist friend of mine as well, and we're talking about how art there's a critical aspect to art, and the critical meaning of what's crucial, what's the real essence of a thing. And art at its best is always commenting on that. I kind of make the distinction between art and decoration. Maybe there's a distinction in film between like art and entertainment, just something that's fluff and that it doesn't really engage you or challenge you in any kind of way.
I think a good film does both, right?
Yeah, and we were talking about this as well because you're very much into the horror genre. It doesn't really move me one way or the other. But through our conversation yesterday, I think I got a little more of what what you're getting into about it. So just talk about how you see the relevance of that horror genre right now to our time, and how you're going through it with your students.
Yeah. Backing up a second though, about kind of the utility of film. After I was at Sac City, I went to UC Berkeley, and the film program is closely related to the rhetoric program, and I actually studied rhetoric at UC Berkeley. And one of the really cool things that I gleaned from there is this idea that a text doesn't have to be a book, right? Mm-hmm. So a flower can be a text, right? Mm-hmm. Or a piece of art, or certainly a film. And if you treat a film like a text, like a document that's performing an active, open argument, then I think that film studies can be about a lot more than, so many of my students at the end of watching a movie will open it up for discussion, and so many of them will like play Siskel and Ebert and be like, I liked it, or like, that actor was really good. And it's like, that's not the point at all. There's something else being performed here. What is it? And I think I hope that at the end of my class, my students will walk out with this higher sense of purpose for what film does.
Well, I think what you said there about, film being a text, you can read that text. Critique is the art of learning the language, like, hey, there's a bunch of words, there's a whole language here that I don't really understand. Yeah. I want to get some fluency in that language and, start breaking it down. I mean, lighting is a language,
totally.
All those kind of things, and I guess what knocks me out of the horror genre all the time is, I just don't like seeing people in that kind of stress. I'm a very kind of stressed out person anyway, and I take things. I read the Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee at around age 11, and just knowing that kind of thing exists in the world kind of made horror passe for me.
Yeah.
But I see where you're going with it. With how you take your the comparisons that you're making. What was the one that we hit on yesterday? There was one comparison in particular that you were like, I think you would get onto this one. No.
I think we were talking about A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Yeah.
Oh, Videodrome. Weren't we talking about Videodrome?
Yeah, we mentioned that one as well.
For the Cronenberg?
Cronenberg?
Really, it's Videodrome.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, anyway, So go ahead, tell me where you take your students with that.
Yeah. So look, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee is one of the most horrible depictions of it's an accurate depiction of one of the most horrible things that many of us will never experience in our lifetime. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get that there are a lot of really awful things that happen in the world, the political climate right now. And, I was just reading that there were Proud Boys walking the streets of downtown Sacramento a couple of days ago. Like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
And so, the cynical response to that is, how can you watch horror movies in a time like this? And some people don't have the stomach for it. And I totally respect that.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough horrible things going on right now that you don't need more.
Mm-hmm.
But the argument that I would give you is that some of us, and there are enough of us that sort of feel like horror movies help cope with these other real life horrible things.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about it yesterday, and I was saying that it's like you're training almost for coping with all of these terrible things. You were talking in the intro about rent control and people losing their houses in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of winter. That's horrible. That's so much more awful and evil-hearted than a lot of the things that we watch in class, especially because it's not real, right? But I think that what horror can perform, again, we're talking about this as if it's a text and performing an argument on its own. What horror can perform is this sort of escapist view at how to deal with and survive horrible things.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like I can watch Psycho and I can see all the crazy stuff he does, and I can put that in a nice little package, and I could be mad at that guy, and I could, just like leave it all there, and I can keep it there. I can keep that package of anger at that Psycho. But when you read the newspaper and you leave your house and you see all this other stuff, like, it's just a lot to deal with too, And I'm starting to see it. I might watch horror movies again.
Yeah, that's the thing. My TV turns off. Proud Boys don't turn off. There's no switch on that, right? So really, what's the more horrible thing?
Yeah. So, kind of on that topic, you have a small child. How old is he now?
Kind of on the Proud Boys topic.
On the dealing with horrible things, because he lived in two cities, right?
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard in a normal situation, and it's really hard during a pandemic. It's hard because
you're putting him on a plane, like what, once a month or something?
Yeah, about once a month ish.
Yeah.
He comes for every vacation and every third weekend.
Okay.
Which works out to sometimes it's twice a month. It's at least once a month.
And how are you making sure that he's keeping his mask on and all all that stuff? Like what's the protocol you go through?
So, 11-year-olds, it's a cliche to talk about kids being germ spreaders, but they are. They don't think, and they just like wipe their nose like that, and then ask you if you want a cookie from their wiped nose hand. It's just kids. They all do that, so we had to sit him down and really talk to him about it. And I think the thing that really locked it in for him, he's really, really close to my mom. And, my mom is young-ish and healthy-ish, but like she's definitely in that group. And my stepdad is, has a compromised immune system, and he's definitely in that group. And I think the thing that locked it in, Orson is my son's name. I mean, you know this, but
Yeah.
other people don't. The thing that really locked it in for him was like, Orson, you aren't in as much danger, but you know, your Lita is, and your grandpa is, and now he's of all of us. I mean, we're all really, really careful, but I would say he's like the most diligent. He travels with a little pocket hand sanitizer thing that he stuffs in his jacket and will like sanitize before and after the flight. And then we were talking about eating on the flight, and we had to make this. He was like, you know, I'll keep my mask on until I have to eat, and that's the only time that I'll take it off on the flight. And I was like, buddy, no, I'll make sure that you're not hungry on the flight. You know, I'll get you a snack beforehand, but you need to keep it on the whole time.
Yeah.
And he was kind of bummed about that, but he's done it. He's taken it really seriously.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Kids are great loophole finders.
They really are. They really are.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Any other time, that would have been a good one.
Oh yeah, totally. So every single time that he gets off the airplane, and his mom does this too, we, you know, bring him into the house, and he immediately is in the shower, and the clothes that he's wearing are immediately in the washing machine, and you know,
yeah,
like everyone else, we're just, you know, doing the best we can with it.
Right. So let's talk about your own personal work. You know, you're a screenwriter. You're still keeping up with that?
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. Speaking of, you know, just trying to do our best, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm somebody who writes with a rigorous amount of routine. Mm-hmm. I just kind of naturally wake up early, and I appreciate waking up early because, you know, there's nobody to bother me, you know, so it's really just me and kind of the quietness of my house. And so before the pandemic, I was waking up and writing really diligently. And then, you know, my partner, my wife, I got married during the pandemic.
Congratulations. I was video there.
She would go to work, and, you know, my son would be at school. And so, you know, my world would be kind of quiet during the day for me to write. And, you know, the pandemic really shook for everybody, but it really shook things up. And I think you're writing or making art or doing the thing that you love to do and were put on the planet to do is sometimes really fragile, you know? Mm-hmm. If it's meaningful, it should be fragile, and you need to take care of it. And I think I wasn't taking care of mine because I was having a really hard time and I wasn't sleeping very well. So it kind of threw off my waking up really early. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, everybody got that pandemic brain where you're just kind of cloudy all the time. Mm-hmm. And I've never had problems coming up with ideas or sitting my butt in a seat to write, because, you know, that's ultimately what writing is. You don't write when you're on jogging or you know, buying flowers, or, you know, you write with your butt in a seat. And I had never had much of a problem before, but I really did. And then it was in kind of rediscovering the passion behind writing that drove me to kind of really pick it back up. But it's changed. You know, I don't have this 4-hour block of time anymore where I can make myself tea and then get the height of the chair just right, and, you know, put the right shirt on, and you can't do that anymore. There's just not time and space for that. And so I'm writing in really small spurts anytime that I can get it. So, you know, I'll be doing the dishes and thinking out ideas, and, you know, there'll be some sort of like dialogue problem or like a joke that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'll think it out doing the dishes, or I'm a big runner, so I'll go on a run and kind of figure these things out, and then run home and clack on the keyboard really quickly, and then sometimes that's all you get is that 5 minutes that you jotted down your ideas super quick.
Yeah, I have noticed that as well. Like there's a fragmenting that happened. Like I haven't shot since this whole thing started. I haven't done a single photo shoot, but I've been editing the old ones, and usually I would just kind of sit down and knock it out.
Yeah.
And my focus is completely shot. Like I've worked for 4 or 5 hours on a single image, and just thrown it away. Like I wake up the next day and I'm like, nope, that was not there. So it was very fascinating at first, fascinating, frustrating.
Yeah.
Trying to get that back.
For you, it's harder for people like you, or I have a lot of musician friends who just aren't working. Because if you're a drummer, you it's hard to do that alone.
Right. That feedback, that back and forth you get with the audience is very crucial.
Totally.
Yep. I feel that. So what else is going on in your world? Your movie writing. I know you got a secret project happening.
I think I was telling you this yesterday. I'm not somebody who worries about jinxing things that are going on. Like I never have any problem talking about things that I'm working on, either because it would jinx it or because I'm too precious about my ideas or whatever. But the nature sometimes of Hollywood is that if you talk about the thing openly, you can jeopardize the possibility of it actually turning into an actual thing.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm asking more about like the big strokes around it. Like, how did that even come together? Like you're at home, you're like connecting with people remotely, I guess.
So
how did you get a new collaboration going?
Good question. So I have two really exciting things going on right now, and one I can talk a little bit about maybe, and one I can't really. But lucky for you, the thing that I can talk a little bit about is by far the more interesting. So one of my colleagues at Sacramento City College, Robert Batel is the other name that they go by, is they're an indigenous person who got a lot of attention for a short film at Sundance. And I'm going to be careful about like saying things and not saying things, but there's a project that we're working on together that's super exciting and really cool about I shouldn't say. But I'm sorry.
I'm more curious about like how it came together versus like the details about the project or whatever.
Oh, okay.
You guys talk all the time or what? Yeah.
So we're friends. Rob and I are colleagues, but I think more than anything we're friends, and it's really nice to have somebody that you're just kind of on the same creative page as. I think you and I have felt that before too, and worked on projects and stuff. And it's just great to know your people, and to know which people you can do things with. And Rob has this really great and very specific skill set in that they are an idea person. Rob will wake up and text me like, oh man, I just had the craziest dream. It was this, and this, and this, and let's make a script out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm more the tortoise, and Rob's more the hare, right? So I have experience writing for TV when I was working with the show Bones on Fox, and I think I bring a lot of that kind of real nuts and bolts, tactile, day in, day out, episodic TV stuff to the table. And Rob has these really vibrant, complicated, but beautiful and meaningful projects that they are, we're sort of the, well, I don't know, David Lynch and Mark Frost or something, like, do you know about their partnership much?
Yeah.
David Lynch is David Lynch, right?
Yeah.
And Mark Frost worked on not Law and Order, the other one. I don't know, some procedural in the 80s that was just like very no nonsense, and it might as well be Law and Order because it's just very plain. Not that I'm plain, but I think that I bring sort of that sensibility to our project, and how, because it's tricky to maintain tension in a story and space it out over 12 episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's really exciting. It's cool because it's challenging for both of us in that we are yin and yang in our approaches. And so,
well, I know he's a filmmaker, like he's a camera guy, like he likes having it in his hand. But you are not at all, right? You ever film
not
something?
much.
Okay.
I mean, let's say that most of my students are about as adept as I am at, which I think I have a lot of the institutional knowledge.
Right.
Like I can tell you about not the 180-degree rule and where camera angles should be and such, but some of my students sometimes will email me and be like, hey, what lens should I use on this camera? And I'm like, you can take the lens off? Like, I don't know. I don't know any of the technical stuff at all. And you're right. Rob is like fantastic at all of that.
Right. Right.
Or my students will ask me about using which editing software do you use? And I'm like, Instagram? I don't. I'm so bad at all of that.
You don't have Google where you are, or what? Yeah. Cool. Well, that's going to be a good partnership. I'm looking forward to that. Yep.
It's so exciting, and I realize it's frustrating and I can't talk about it, but it really is. It's a big deal, and it's really an exciting thing, and it'll be really, really special.
Yeah. Right on. Well, I think we're right about our time here. Is there anything else you wanted to get in on? What inspired words of staying safe in this time do you want to throw out there?
I think that there's a lot going on. A lot of people talking about things that are or aren't getting done during the pandemic, and I'm somebody who's really hard on myself in terms of my output. I think I'd like to close with, whoever's watching this, just like go easy on yourself. Sit your butt in a seat once a day for any amount of time and do something that you love. And that's enough,
Yeah, man, that's go easy. That's it right there. Yeah. We are all going through this. For once, I can say everybody's going through this. We're all on the same page, really. How we respond to it is a little different, but
totally. And it's not easy for anybody.
Yep. That is an understatement of the year. But thanks, dude. I really appreciate you doing this. Yep.
This was fun.
Yeah. Let's develop this into a whole story and pitch it to Fox.
Sounds great.
Make a series.
I know some people.
All right, man. I will talk to you soonish. Hang out a second. I'm going to chat with you on the thing. Okay. And thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm doing this again on Wednesday with attorney in Sacramento. She's an immigration attorney named Tiffany Sharp. That's going to be a good show as well. And yeah, hope to see you all there. I'm going to try to do questions on that one too. I'm not really that adept at this yet, but I'm working out the kinks here. So anyway, thanks a lot and stay safe, keep masked up and wash your hands. We'll see you soon. Crushed it.